I'm Paul Wessendorp. I am heading the investment promotion program at UNCTAD. And I'm very happy to be invited to this ANIMA event and present some of the latest findings of UNCTAD on the impact that COVID-19 had on international business, on foreign direct investment, how governments have been reacting to that policy-wise, and then how institutions, investment promotion agencies that we in our program deal on a daily basis with, have reacted to this crisis, and also what kind of changes we think to the way that IPAs do business will be more permanent. I have some slides to share with you. Some were related to the World Investment Report that came out last month, and probably many of you are aware of it and familiar with it. The World Investment Report presents international foreign direct investment trends. This year also the impact of COVID-19, as well as a special chapter on investment in sustainable development goals. I also share with you findings that we already published in an investment promotion agency's Observer, and we are working on a follow-up to that as well. So let me just, here we go. So let me go then to the first slide, which presents the cover page of the World Investment Report 2020, entitled International Production Beyond the Pandemic. As other World Investment Reports, this report covers international and regional FDI trends, policy responses, international, national policy, investment policies, as well as this year, the COVID-19 crisis and its impact on foreign direct investment. And there is a special chapter on the on investment in sustainable development goals. The next slide shows you the IPA Observer that we brought out with the role that investment promotion agencies have been playing during the COVID-19 crisis. We at UNCTAD have been very impressed with many agencies, how they provided immediate response, helping their clients in times of need, but also in providing the needed information, because businesses were really blind in the beginning on what was happening. They had to close their businesses. And now also with reopening, they are there to inform them on how to go about it. There have been also the intermediaries between the business community and the public sector, informing the public sector on the kind of policies and relief measures that were needed. And in a few countries, there have been part of committees that responded, a national committee that responded to the economic crisis. And for countries in like Italy, that was very hard hit, and Ethiopia, they have played a very prominent role in helping to transfer the production of some companies towards equipment that was needed in the medical sector. So before talking about that role of IPAs, let me share two slides on the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on foreign direct investment. And at UNCTAD, we predict that in the year 2020, foreign direct investment will fall with not less than 40%, which will be an enormous impact and will bring foreign direct investment, annual foreign direct investment for the first time since 2005, below $1 trillion. And we also expect that in 2021, this decline will continue with around 10 to 15% before there will be, again, a growth in foreign direct investment. Now, if you then look at the longer and the shorter and longer term effects of COVID-19 on FDI, of course, when businesses stopped in the last couple of months, that had an immediate effect on the implementation of investment projects, but very quickly also on mergers and acquisitions, for instance. Also with not only that whole process was delayed, but also with new policies in place, securing certain sectors for national security reasons, like the health sector, against takeovers. So there have been immediate effects, but there will be also medium-term and longer-term effects. Medium terms have to do also with the economic crisis that is there and is coming, in which certain projects, investment project proposals will be shelved. But also longer-term effects, in which companies will look at their investment plans again and at the locations of the affiliates at their supply chain, look for more resilience, reshore some of those investments, also look more at regional supply chains, will by itself will open new opportunities for investment. Now to the reaction of investment promotion agencies. The reaction has been diverse and evolved over time. Diverse because many IPAs have different digital capacities, and that is what they had to rely on in this crisis, in which direct contact with clients was not possible. Also different office cultures. Many IPAs had to staff had to start working from home. Some IPAs had already been partly doing that, so it was easier to move to that modus operandi. For others, more difficult. Some IPAs have more resources than others. It was easier for them to set up special websites, platforms related to COVID-19 than for smaller agencies. And then, of course, the timing. IPAs in Asia were earlier hit by this crisis than in the Americas. So we will have seen also that the reaction in the Americas come later. But those IPAs were better prepared. So we have seen now in Latin America that 8 out of 10 investment promotion agencies have some or very comprehensive COVID-19 related content on their websites and in their social media communications. What you can see here is that globally on 19 June, 77% we counted of national investment promotion agencies, and we looked at 190 of them, of which 180 agencies had operating websites. So 77% had comprehensive or some information that related, or services that related to COVID-19. Now, if you look then at the kind of content, 31% have now, or slightly more even now, a very comprehensive coverage, while in the beginning of April, that was 19%. Now, when it evolves, IPAs, the crisis evolves and economies are opening up, IPAs are also looking at the way forward. And we have seen now that 84 out of 10, 38% of IPAs are looking at what is next. Not anymore relief that they focus on, but they focus on more on recovery. And the next stage after recovery will probably be reform, with changing the strategies, etc. So the recovery focuses on helping companies reopen businesses, in which IPAs are helping with providing guidelines on how to reopen businesses. For instance, the Rwanda Development Board has a guide on the hospitality sector for how to reopen your businesses. but also on repackaging investment opportunities and helping sectors that have suffered to revive, like Invest in Austria, that has a campaign, Arrive and Revive for the tourism sector, in helping to reopen that particular sector. Now, in the next slide, I would like to share with you the differences between the continents that we observed. And as I mentioned, some IPAs have it took longer to make the changes. In Africa, they have been catching up. Early April, we saw that I think it was 56% of IPAs still didn't even mention online the COVID-19 crisis. And the business community was very in need of information related to that crisis. So that was something that we talked also with African IPAs about, and we have seen change. And some IPAs there are now front runners in when it comes to content and services that they provide online to their clients. In the Americas, there the reaction came later because it was also affected later. But as I said, there is a very good presence now online on how to on services for investors. In Asia, we have seen big differences with front runners like India and Austrade. In Australia, Austrade was the first agency that we saw that had webinars for exporters on how to deal with the crisis in China at that point, where they were exporting their products to. And in Europe, we have seen very comprehensive websites and coverage of COVID-19, a large range of services that are provided. And I show you a few examples of that in the next slides. Now, some of the emerging trends that I would like to share with you. For us, we see that there is more strategic and targeted investment promotion approach, in which agencies at the moment, especially are looking at the health sector, but also at food security. We had a discussion with Caribbean agencies, for instance, that had issues with food security during the crisis, and national governments there are looking at how to develop high-tech agriculture there now to make sure that when another crisis comes, they will not get into the same problems as before. But there are also agencies that look at new strategic opportunities in the health sector and in the food sector. There is going to be an enhanced service offering on online in the area of investment facilitation. We have seen that many agencies had fast-track approvals online that they didn't have before. Because of the crisis, they needed businesses to keep on operating, services to be provided. So they made these exceptions, but we think that this trend will stay. So from now on, online investor services will be definitely a must for all IPAs. IPAs are also have been very good troubleshooters during this period, which is part of their aftercare function. Some have done it better than others, but we were very impressed on the whole of how that was done. And also the focus that IPAs had on smaller and medium-sized enterprises. Some not even having that in their mandate, but it is seen by many IPAs as one of the determinants of their location, one of the assets of their location, to have a thriving SME sector that M&Es can link up with. And the survival of that sector became an important priority. What we also have seen is that now the relationship between the IPAs and their clients was not direct. They really started to reach out to their clients for information. What exactly is needed? What are your immediate problems that we can help you with? And also informing government to make policy decisions that were right for the business community. So that policy advocacy role was very well used And we think that that will be strengthened after the crisis as well. And that online surveys that have been done quite a bit by IPAs will be part of that new trend. And then strategic partnerships. IPAs have been reaching out to traditional partners, to new partners in dealing with the crisis, and that went extremely well. And we were happy to be part of that. I'm sure many of you also have been reaching out to ANIMA for help and advice in this particular period. And then I like to share then 2 more slides with some of the initial and some of the more evolving responses to the crisis by IPAs. One slide on the initial response. That also still continues because the crisis in many countries is still there. But also on more forward-looking for those economies that are opening up now. Now here we see, for instance, the Brazilian Apex Brazil. Apex Brazil deals with investment promotion, but also with the promotion of exports. And they have been very forthcoming with studies and advice for exporters on how to deal with the crisis. Investigated did a study. The Estonia agency is very much online and has a lot of services traditionally already and have enlarged that presence. The German agency has a very sector-specific approach and has been doing webinars for months now on new investment opportunities, for instance, in the health sector, combining that with their digital capacities in their economy. The business immunity platform of Invest India has been talked about quite a bit, very comprehensive. They had about 4 million visitors already. They deal with inquiries. The website says that over 10,000 of these inquiries already have been handled successfully. And then the agencies, as I already mentioned, the Italian agency, and this is their incentive program for companies that produce medical equipment, protection equipment. The Malta agency has a similar program of incentives, which is and different services on their website. And this one is also from one of the ANIMA members, Tunisia. Now the next slide, and that's the last slide. I'd like to share some of the more forward-looking opening up economy messages that IPAs have, like the Greece agency here. Yes, we are open, but also Bahrain, who is looking at these new investment opportunities becoming a hub for the medical sector, logistical hub, medical sector, and food related. An agency, a small agency like in Dominica, that is with partners having radio programs on how to open up businesses. The Lebanese agency, they have been doing studies on companies that brought out innovations, came out with innovative ideas that helped combating the crisis. And then also here, the Slovak agency looking at what is beyond. If we post-pandemic, we want to have a more sustainable economy, and how can e-mobility play a role in that? Last but not least, CINDE. CINDE is always very active when it comes to jobs, to the human resources, and they have been they've established a platform to help those that lost jobs during the crisis to find new jobs in companies that grew during the crisis, especially then in the medical sector. They also set up a program to get people reskilled. So here you can see the innovative ways that IPAs have been working and have shown how they could make a difference. And as we say, it has been a make or break period for investment promotion agencies. This was the time they could prove that they can make a difference, and many did so. And I'm happy to share with you some of the experiences during this meeting. Thank you.